Hi, Captain Steve with this week's edition of BoatTEST Reports, brought to you today by BoatTEST Leasing, the new way to enjoy boating without the cost and hassle. Let's start with this week's news. Electronics played a big role in a recent rescue 500 miles south of Dutch Harbor, Alaska, when a 38-foot sailboat became disabled and adrift. Due to the long distance, the Coast Guard requested assistance from any nearby vessels using the automated mutual assistance vessel rescue system broadcast over a 100 nautical mile radius over the Inmarsat-C satellite email system. It worked, and the 980-foot bulk carrier President Eisenhower arrived on the scene and took the 67-year-old occupant aboard. In Alexandria, Minnesota, two men aged 18 and 21 were thrown into the water from their 14-foot aluminum boat by a large wave. The boat continued circling while the two were pulled from the water unharmed by a nearby boater that witnessed the event, an occurrence easily avoided by simply attaching the safety cutoff lanyard as we do on every test. Two boaters off Seaside Park, New Jersey were fishing close to shore in a 25-foot center console when a whale, most likely a humpback, collided with their vessel, flipped it over, and knocked them into the water.
Maybe 6 feet in front of me, kind of like if you ever saw Jaws. This fish just breached the water and I was like, this is landing on us.
Robert said the only thing he remembers is hearing the whale slamming down on the boat.
The noise from the whale hitting the boat, it was like a thud that it was loud.
The two swam to shore. The boat was recovered from the shore where it was found in an upright position. Tierra has just launched its 43 LE, the first in its Luxury Express series and now the largest of the company's sport yachts. It includes an aft social zone with dual reclining seats that can be rotated into multiple positions. The corner-mounted seats are just ahead, and the helm and observer seats can also be rotated to join the social zones. Below are two cabins with the VIP forward. The full-beam master includes a settee below a hull-side window. In the new products news, Humminbird Mega 360 imaging sounder is now available for any boat. This model previously required mounting to a trolling motor but is now universal, with a 50-inch shaft that can be mounted virtually anywhere on the boat. The Mega 360 retails for $1,499 and is now shipping. Yamaha Outboards has upped its game with its new Helmmaster EX system. It adds joystick functionality for both single and multi-engine configurations, including Fish Point, that holds position while allowing the heading to drift, Drift Point, which holds heading while allowing the position to shift, and autopilot controls, including joystick steering and waypoint tracking. Now, in case you missed it, we recently featured the flagship of the Sailfish lineup, the 360 center console. With triple Yamaha 300 four-strokes powering our test boat, we reached a top speed of 54.1 miles per hour. Features include a hull-side dive door with a reboarding ladder concealed under the deck. There are 3 aft-facing seats across the back of the helm seats, with an 82-quart cooler and a 32-gallon live well underneath. A fish finder display is behind the center seat back. Pull all the seat backs aft to reveal tackle storage. Just abaft is both a transom seat and a starboard bulwarks pull-out seat. Fully forward is bow seating wrapping around an acrylic table on a high-low pedestal for conversion to a sun pad with a 39-inch cockpit depth. The helm panel can support up to 3 12-inch multifunction displays. Now, there's much more to be seen on this boat, and it can be viewed on BoatTEST.com. We've been asked to provide some basic seamanship, so here's a look at what may be the most important aspect of seamanship: how to tie a cleat. You first have to understand that knots are held in place by creating a lock point, so when tying a cleat, go all the way around, and now there's your lock point where one line wraps over the other. I can hold the boat all day long like this, but I do intend to walk away, so now you create a figure 8, and to keep it from unraveling, you just put a twist in the end of the line so that the final knot lays over the previous knot, as opposed to going in the other direction where it lays across. We reported last week on an exciting new 300 horsepower diesel outboard engine being developed by Swedish company OXE Marine, and it generated tons of viewer emails wanting more information on diesel outboards in general. So we went back to the source to have some Q&A with Pim Pelosi, OXE's marketing manager, and Per Wigren, research and development manager for OXE. It's nice speaking to you. Thank you both for joining us today.
Nice speaking to you.
Diesel engines, of course, have huge amounts of torque. How does the torque of your diesel engine compare to similar gas-powered outboards?
Well, typically the torque comes at a very low rev on the diesel engines, and it starts at a high rate and continues at a high rate when you increase the revs. While on the petrol engine, it starts at a very low value, and the torque gradually increases with increased revolution of the engine. So it gives you a much better performance in terms of acceleration and to pick up load on a diesel engine compared to the petrol.
Can you fit a propeller that's large enough both in diameter and pitch to take advantage of that torque?
Yeah, for the typical applications that our outboards are intended for, we can fit up to a 17-inch propeller, and that is absolutely good enough to utilize the high torque.
I think it is 29-inch pitch on our biggest ones.
The pitch is no limitation from our side. It's the diameter which is the limitation when it comes to fitting the outboard. But in order to utilize some standard features in the marine market, of course, we need to adopt to, because we don't design our own propellers currently. If we design our own propellers, it will make it less convenient for our customers to use our engines, because if you hit the ground and you need a new propeller, do you really have time to wait 2 weeks or 1 week to have it sent from Sweden? If we have a standard Mercury or a Yamaha spline shaft, it's available in the shop next door.
Okay, now typically on an outboard application, you're in heavy seas, we go off a wave, the boat and say the propeller may come out of the water momentarily, get up to high rev, and then get back in the water at high rev. What have you done to keep the lower unit gears from breaking when that prop comes out of the water and revs?
First of all, the engine is electronically controlled, so once the load reduces a jump in the ocean, the RPM is controlled and the load of the engine is automatically reduced. And once you get it back in the water again, of course, immediately the load picks up on the propeller, and then it's transferred from our belt system and the gearbox. It comes via a shock-absorbing clutch as well. And as the load picks up again, the system will transfer the load given by the engine. It's a robust system that can take a very sudden load increase as well as a very sudden load decrease.
Is this a two-stroke or four-stroke engine?
It's a four-stroke engine.
How often will the lash have to be adjusted, and how often will it have to be serviced by a dealer?
This engine has a camshaft chain, and that is an automatic tension chain system. So it will not be replaced until there's a need for basically the major overhaul of the engine itself, the power head.
Diesel engines are, of course, heavier than gas engines. What have you done to lighten this engine?
In order to make a light outboard engine as such, we have worked a lot with all the subsystems, auxiliary systems on the engine, like the intercooler, water pump system, the main cooler system. On the engine itself, we have also removed a lot of items which are not relevant for having a power head on an outboard. One example is, of course, the AC compressor, which was normally fitted on the engine in a car. That is not used in our application. But we have not done any lightweight to the power head itself. It's an extremely low-weight power head. It's all in aluminium, and the only steel parts is basically the crankshaft of the engine.
Can I take, say, my larger gasoline engine and get the same power and thrust and performance with a lower diesel engine from you?
350 horsepower will take you to a certain speed. And if we have 350 horsepower, we will take you to the same speed as the petrol ones. But our difference is that you can have a few tons extra with a diesel, because it doesn't mind that extra weight in the boat. So it's not higher speed per horsepower, but it's more weight per speed unit.
And if I've got that 200 horsepower on both a gas and a diesel engine, I can simply add more weight and maintain the power level rather than having a gas engine that will just keep bogging down and struggling.
Yeah, well, and also you should add the benefit of that we will take you 70% longer with the same amount of fuels. If you were to maintain that speed for 10 hours with a petrol unit, we would go 17 hours with our in full throttle with no problem. So that is basically the large difference. We have a little bit more than 40% fuel reduction in our engines compared to the leisure ones. Well, we have diesel, they have petrol. That contributes to about 70% longer distance traveled in max RPM.
Thank you so much for giving us your time and doing this. This has been great.
Thanks.
Bye. Thank you. Bye.
Now a word about today's sponsor. Today, I have something truly remarkable to tell you about. It's not a new boat, engine, or propeller. It's a new way of boat usage, one that makes even premium boats affordable. Many of us have spent our lives dreaming about enjoying the good life on a boat. Sunset at anchor, early morning runs out to a reef for fishing, that sort of thing. But the trouble is, boating industry surveys indicate that most people feel they can't afford to enjoy their experience of their dreams. New boat sales today are just 30% of what they were 20 years ago. The National Boating Association also says that Americans on average use their boat only 25 days a year. That means the other 340 days a year, the boat sits idle. But now, all of that has changed thanks to BoatTEST Leasing, which is harnessing those unused days and packaging them into affordable leases. And cost over the life of a 48-month lease? As little as 12% of the actual invoice of a new boat. Be sure to visit the BoatTEST Leasing website to find out more. Now, how prepared are you for the unexpected? What will you do if your boat capsizes or sinks to save yourself and your passengers? All too often, people are stuck waiting to be rescued simply because they weren't prepared, and there's no reason for it. Every boat, whether it's an ocean-going passage maker or a 16-footer on a small lake, should have a well-stocked and waterproof ditch bag at the ready. Now, what's in that ditch bag will vary from our passage maker to the 16-footer, but of course, some things stay the same. Signaling devices are the first thing that comes to mind. Your boat is required to have flares, but what if the boat is foundering and those flares are underwater? That's why a ditch bag is the first thing to grab. It should have 3 handheld red flares, 3 red parachute flares, and 2 3-minute orange smoke canisters. A signal mirror and a sea dive marker should be in it as well. A manual air horn is a good idea. Put a handheld VHF in it. One with DSC is even better. It transmits at the push of a button. If you're coastal or offshore, then a personal locator beacon has never been less expensive or more powerful. And for the love of God, add water to your ditch bag. You can live for days without food, but not without water. Well, that's our show for this week. As always, keep those questions and pictures and videos coming. Stay safe, practice social distancing, and thanks for watching. As always, I'm Captain Steve, and I'll see you on the water.